I'll call the Cascade Charter Township Planning Commission to order for Monday, October 2nd, 2023. At this time, I will record all, but member Roland is present and he is excused. I would ask everybody to rise and face the flag and pledge the allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You do that?
Nope. The same thing Wednesday. They moved it.
You need to preserve things where they are.
We didn't have a motion for that.
Yeah.
They moved the flag.
Welcome. Yeah, the flag is typically over there.
Said so moved and
Yeah.
they did.
And then it got moved.
It happened. You weren't here. If you had been here earlier, you would have, there was a consensus for a special meeting. It was a quorum.
Yeah.
Sure it was.
All right. We'll move on to Article 3 to approve the current agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by member Engel, supported by member Moxley. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Hearing none opposed, we'll move forward. We'll go to Article 4. Does anybody wish to disclose a conflict of interest relates to tonight's items?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll move forward. At this time, we will acknowledge any visitors that are present or on Zoom.
We approving minutes?
Did I miss that? My bad.
You did.
All right, can we approve, we get a motion to approve the minutes for the September 11th and the September 18th meetings?
I have a couple of edits.
Let's hear them.
All right, so let's see here. September 11th meeting. Second page, second paragraph, Dean Depp, 1878 County Brook. It says he's also considering an additional 6-foot tall fence. I think that's incorrect. He's only doing a fence around his hostas. He's not adding additional fences. I think
More screen than a fence, no?
well, but I think the word additional in the one area, he's sticking with the standard 6 foot. He's doing 8 foot in the ravine. So I don't want any confusion. He's adding more fencing. So I'm not exactly sure how to word that, but
I think it's an additional fence. And just by going back to and recalling the actual drawing that he provided.
I went back and looked. It's just one red.
Is it a pre-existing fence in that is currently 6 foot? Is that your point?
No, I'm saying that, how do I best word this? He was asking for a special use to put 8 foot in the ravine and the rest would be at a standard 6 foot. He's not asking for an additional fence. There's only one fence. It starts at 2 corners of his house and it makes a loop to enclose the hostas
So he's going to change his 6 to 8.
in the ravine only.
Modification.
So can we just defer to them if they clean that up?
Can you clean that up, Brian?
Yeah, I love Madison.
Thank you.
That part.
And then I have a couple more, sorry. I didn't wordsmith that. Next page, actually 2 pages down. Louis Chen, the applicant, agreed that the commercial composting title is not applicable. I would just like to strike the word composting after that and after the word farm, because I think that it communicates the wrong thing. The debate was whether the word commercial belongs or not. Right, and our zoning had commercial, so I don't believe he was concerned about commercial composting. He was worried about the word commercial versus farm.
What if we
But did
put the
he
word
say-
commercial in quotes?
Did he say that though? Because if that's what he said, that's what the minute should reflect, not maybe what he's trying to convey as much. And we could do that in quotes, like, I
I
guess.
don't believe that's what he said either, but somebody go back and check that. The debate was about the word commercial in our zoning ordinance. It wasn't a debate about commercial composting.
I don't recall him saying it either. I think it was commercial, the word commercial. Brian, can we just look back at that and tweak
Mhm.
that?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the final one is what page am I on now here?
You into the 18th at this point?
Nope, still on the 11th. So, and finishing up, motion was made to close the hearing. Motion was made by member Rowland to accept additional conditions suggested with removal of number 10. I think in that area where we're blackening that, where we're making the final resolution and the adoption of the amended number 13. The recommendations that they gave us, the 13, remember they added 9 through 13. As written, 13 said it must restore it back to its initial condition. But Brian on the fly changed that to basically removing compost material. So we didn't accept 13 as written. And this communicates we accepted 13 as written.
We gotta be careful here because this has already gone to the board and been approved. I don't want to change.
It's not changing what was approved.
Okay.
That's what went to the board.
Okay, as long as it's not doing that.
We're not changing, I'm documenting, I think, what we approved, what we sent to the board.
Okay, no
The minutes are
problem.
just documenting what was said in the meeting.
Correct.
The reason for that was so they wouldn't be tearing out all the trees they planted.
Right.
Right, exactly. But I just think the minutes are incorrect. That's all I have for September 11th.
Okay. Why don't we pass those with the amended changes? So do I hear a motion to pass?
So moved.
Moved by member Engel to pass the minutes with the amended changes suggested by member Brunel with staff's assistance. Do I hear do I hear a support?
Support.
Support from trustee Nordhook. Good to hear from you, trustee Timmy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, hearing none opposed, let's go on to the 18th.
18th, I only have one, and it's typographical. Last page, it says we allow developers to be more creative. I think creative.
I saw that.
Okay.
I would support that change with a motion to approve those minutes.
I have two other notes.
Okay.
918 Article 6. I just want to be clear that part of the stated reason for tabling this was our hope that the applicant could appear and answer questions, and I don't think that's referenced in the minutes, but we certainly talked about that. That's the first thing. And then in Article 7, maybe I should just be clear. Does anybody else have that recollection?
Yes.
Yes, no, that was
That should be spelled out there.
yes.
Article 7. This is partially addressed, but I believe that we all wanted clarification on the discrepancy between the required number of parking lots at 798 and the 314 that were in the plan. I don't think that's spelled out in the minutes either. And
I don't-
that should be.
Think we got to that discussion, unfortunately.
We tabled it right away.
It was tabled right away. Some people wanted to table it right away before we could discuss that.
I thought that was part of the conversation, though.
I don't
believe
recall
so.
that being brought up
No? Okay.
in detail.
I don't think we got that far, unfortunately. It was door closed.
It does represent whether it was Brian or it does say 314 versus 798. It was presented, but I don't think there was any discussion.
Yeah, he brought that up in the staff review, but I thought we touched on that as one of the reasons that it got tabled, but if that's not your recollection, that's fine.
Make a shout, that might have been mentioned after the motion to table, but I don't know that it was really discussed. I think somebody said it as we were moving into the next agenda item, perhaps.
But then I would, with the changes suggested previously, I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of the September 18th meeting.
Motion made by member Engel, supported by
Support.
member Rissy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed. Now I will acknowledge visitors. We have a public hearing for Sanchez Marfil. So if you're here to talk about that, please, I'd ask that you wait. If you're here to talk about any other item, feel free to come to the podium. I would ask that you state your name and address so that we have it for the record. And we do limit comments to 5 minutes per speaker. They're a lot more expedient than we are, so this is good. All right, move forward. We'll let the record reflect that we didn't have any visitors. Anybody on Zoom? Madison. Okay, we'll move on to Article 7, case number 23-3784. Satra? Satra, thank you. She'll bring you up, I promise.
If I may, I need to make a motion to remove this from the table? Because it was tabled?
Yeah, we can have that for a procedural.
Yeah, go ahead.
Make a motion to remove this from the table?
Support.
Motion made by Marisi, supported by Member Rango, that this item be removed from table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. All
Proceed.
good.
Okay, we have the Satrovs here this evening, so we have their application back in front of us. So I'll go through it again. We have them at 3680 Buttrick on our ARC district, and they are seeking a type 1 special use permit to build an accessory building exceeding 832 square feet. Their parcel size is 4.2 acres, and this would be the first accessory building on their property. They are requesting to build their accessory building off of 36th Street. They have a corner lot, and they were granted a variance at our September 12th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the placement. They are now seeking approval for the square footage, which is a 40 by 70 foot pole barn for a total of 2,800 square feet. The applicant has indicated that they have somewhat of an existing drive that they would use, but I would refer to the applicant for more details on the drive. And it has been made clear to them that they would possibly need a curb cut from the road commission for a new drive. The narrative description included in the packet from the applicant talks about the screening of foliage to block the view of the pole barn, and that the use of the pole barn would be for personal storage of various recreational vehicles. The placement of the home, you can see, is out of the way of the well and the drain field. And I did note to the applicant that you guys have some questions on that, so they can follow up on those questions when they are up here. When we looked at the accessory buildings in our ARC district, the average square footage for an accessory building approved here was about 2,200 square feet. We did receive a letter of support from a neighbor, and that was included in your packet. And with all of those findings, we also looked into how it will affect adjoining properties, if it will negatively affect them in any ways. And we determined that we did not see that being a negative impact because of the parcel size and other findings above. The recommendation I have tonight is to approve it. I do have some conditions to add on of our making sure the outdoor lighting adheres to our standards, and that the accessory building not be used for a living space or any sort of occupation, and the applicant can address that home occupation question as well.
Do you have concerns that there is a home occupation?
No, it was a question brought up at the last meeting for the applicant.
Got it. Not a concern here. All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to lead you astray.
No leading. Does anybody else have questions before we bring the applicant up?
I have a couple, if I may. Their site plan shows a drive, that gravel drive, which I didn't see. I just saw mowed grass off of 36th Street. And in their drawing, they have it aligning with the westernmost corner. And yet, if you look at where the door cutouts are, I think an RV to the far east, and then 2 more door cutouts. So it looks to me like it'd be like a 4-lane wide highway to access all those doors. So with all that runoff, do we still have no concerns with the neighbors, impacting neighbors?
I believe the door placement might not be precise in this rendering. I think it's a prefab building that they submitted the general plans for. So they might be able to speak better to the access
Okay,
doors. And I know that they can access the building from both the west and the north. I just don't know all the details of if it's paved or gravel.
fair. I'll ask them. And then B, you say the applicant has received a variance for the placement, just to be certain. So it's technically in their front yard because they're a corner lot. So
Yes,
it's a
correct.
Front
Yep.
yard variance. Okay. And then final one. I'm curious as to why the next applicant has an item G where we're concerned about the architectural character of the buildings and it's not highlighted as an issue with this one. Is there a difference between, say, R2 and R1?
So this is an ARC and the other applications in our R2. So the difference would be that this is a more rural part of our zoning district. So there's more agricultural buildings, whereas the other application is in our residential district, which is a higher density neighborhood, smaller lots, more homes and less barns. Is that
Fair. That's what I was kind of assuming, but just for the record, but 4081 is technically for all accessory buildings independent of zoning. Is that correct or no?
the factors of finding? Are you
No,
referring to?
the zoning
the
ordinance,
definition?
section 4, that you specify that the character must be compatible with principal building. Is that for a specific zoning or for all zones?
I don't want to say it wrong, but I believe it's for residential districts. I don't have.
So
it in
it's,
front of
yeah,
me.
it applies to all zoning districts, right? The character is going to be different in a residential district versus an ag zoned district. Yep.
Thank you.
And Brian, that's defined by the ordinance, the differences.
Right, or which zoning ordinance it's located in.
Yes, I have one other question. This type of building is or is not allowed to be utilized for commercial storage.
No, it's not allowed to be.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on Brian though. So I thought I understood the answer till you said that. 408 just specifies that an accessory building in Cascade Township, the architectural character should be compatible and similar to the principal building. Is that correct? It doesn't then go on to say degrees of freedom off from that based on different zones, does it?
That's the way the way we've applied it to. So when it's in that ag area, we have numerous steel or metal buildings in that ag, especially since, remember, farming buildings, we don't have zoning control over. So you'll see steel and ag buildings like that, but you're correct. I mean, a strict reading of that would read as you stated there.
I just want to make sure I'm fair to everyone
Yep.
before us today.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if the applicant would like to come forward. And if you
Hello,
get.
folks.
state
Good
your
evening.
name. Yeah,
Alex Sadrov, Anna, my wife.
nice to meet you.
Nice
Good
to
morning
meet
or
you.
good evening. Nice to meet you. Good morning. Oh, goodness.
All right. So yes, we would like to propose getting this building. We've been to the previous meeting. We had our initial discussion, and we may have been Article 6 on the previous.
Yeah, we
meeting.
apologize. We didn't.
Our apologies,
Years.
scheduling was
Thank
a little
you
bit
for
off, so thank
resetting.
you for resetting.
We
it.
tabled it so we could meet you in person.
We
Awesome.
appreciate it. I
Thank
probably,
you.
goodness, did
Yeah.
not mean to miss that.
So we're ready to address any questions we have. This morning I took some pictures of the property, so it'll be a little bit easier to understand what things look like and the clarifications around kind of the driveway. So
If you put it right on that table.
Yep.
There we go. And so if you'd like to walk us through those pictures first, and then we can ask some questions.
Perfect.
Awesome.
So this is the view of the entrance. The road will be coming through here. You can kind of see it. There we go. And this is how the utilities get access to our driveway or sort of driveway today. So when DT comes out, they have access to this post. So they typically just pull it through the grass, but up and do their service. So there's already kind of a semi cut out there already. We cut the grass so we can kind of easily see this location. Right. This is the view from the road. Not exactly safe to be in the road, but I will take a quick picture. Entrance from this side, we don't have really a curb. It just kind of runs off. Just a different perspective.
And just to add to that, the previous owners of the home had a gate kind of across that space actually. And at some point when they were coming in and taking down some trees for the power lines, the gate disappeared. So we think it might have been whatever they were doing, but just so you know, seemed like, you know, our, the previous owners had been using that maybe as an access as well, having that gate there.
Another view, this is exactly from the entrance to the property. You can see kind of the shielding. These trees here will probably be gone at this point. And the driveway, I'll do a clarification on the property entrance, but it's not going to be straight into the garage. So this is kind of the view from this perspective. And this is the view from one of the pine trees that is located here. This is where I'm standing. Take a picture of the two pine trees in front with one of our driveway in the back. Apologies. Moving forward. View of some of the vehicles I got. I'll get to the RVs later, but things are cramped with our recreational cars. I have a pretty small hobby there. We have a few other things that we would like to get our space in the back of the garage. I have a few kayaks. I'm semi-popular. I practiced Lake Michigan a few years ago. Still unsupported. It's one of the toys there. But I got also 3 kids and they're getting into that now, so just kind of getting busy and busy. This is one of the campers. So this is kind of an important one. This is our 34th that we take us over the lake every year, twice a year. And this is one for day trips. Our other fitting out there is kind of a problem in other times with the snow. I'll show you the last one. Okay, now coming back to the location of the building and the structure. This one. So this would be the east entrance for the camper. Primary reason for that is where this is not necessarily accurate here. It is going to be curved primarily because we want the camper to be parked in inside and not blocking the entrance here from the west side of the property. That's primary reason out of the way. And then we would like to, I didn't take pictures of the jet ski. We have a couple of jet skis. That's another thing. So, perfect. Thank you. Anyway, again, we'll get a larger door or entrance, 12-foot door to get the RV again. Then entrance for the jet ski boat. We have a couple of ATVs for the kids, and then English kayaks out of cars. We didn't want to make our lot look like a parking lot again, so we tried to tuck everything in. But that would be taking up pretty much most of the storage. I don't just want a little bit of extra storage. So to address the question of living space, this is not going to be living space. It's not going to be heated. This is just strictly for all the recreation. Use another perspective. This is the west entrance, so we have access to the building. The windows on the south side for light.
And then like for jobs for us, like I'm a lawyer, he's an IT guy, so we're not doing anything in there, you know, like a home business kind of thing.
Yeah, we're parking constantly on the grass over here and over here. It's look like a parking lot, and this is before our kids are starting to drive, so it's gonna get even busier. You had a question about the drain field. I'm not sure what it was, but just to clarify, our initial drain field was, I don't know how, but placed underneath the deck here. Before we moved in, we had that changed after it failed prematurely, not surprisingly. We went to the commission, got approved, and it was moved away from the property. We have multiple tanks in this location, and then pipe is running outside the pond to this drain field out here. Based on the size of the house, one of the residents, they recommended the larger size.
And we added to the septic tanks as well, based on the recommendation.
Do you have a lift there or is it all gravity?
What's that?
You have a lift?
It's gravity.
It is gravity.
It's kind of, you can kind of see what it looks like from one of the photos. Find it real quick. Or not.
Yeah, if you took a picture of it.
I did not send it. It's a little hill, pretty much, right next to the pond. So this is an elevated area away from the pond. We have a creek running here. Initially, when they came out, they wanted to run pipe on this side and set it out. Just in case there's flooding and it fails. I don't want to environmental shutdown. So I requested we can do it this way. They said that's totally fine. and then made it larger because of 5 residents in the house.
Thank you.
Good looking building.
Thank you.
All right, who has questions? Member Bruno?
I think you answered all of mine. Let me double check, but I'm gonna defer.
Hang on. She's not used to that, so. Member Brunel is our resident engineer, so he's our detail man, which is good.
That is good.
Yes, Member Moxley, why Member Brunel's waiting.
Are there any second floor spaces within that new storage building?
No, they asked that same question last time as well. There's gonna be no storage because for the height that we need, there was no storage available anyway, so
Okay.
there isn't. It's a pretty.
Same answer as before.
Exactly. Yeah, it's wide open.
Yeah, I
Not
think you were on
planned.
that board as well,
Sorry.
yeah.
Member Rissy?
I'd just like to say thank you for showing us all of the, I guess the thing to say would be stuff that you plan to put in the building, because time after time we have these requests, and there's been a lot of discussion about up here lately about, is that size building really needed?
Right.
And you demonstrated that you have a current need for that space, and that really helps this process along. So
Right.
Oh,
thank you. I wish everybody would.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a standard we need to change, but I think that
Yeah.
Yeah.
helpful.
Member Bruno?
I just had one, and I think it's because it's been mentioned. If we put a conditional, like, it looks good. I agree with everything that Scott just said.
Mhm.
Obviously, with your doors facing north, I don't think it's ever happened, but I keep hearing you have access from the west.
Yes.
If we put a conditional that you would never connect your current, I don't know what you call it, current driveway to this, I'm just.
Yeah.
Runoff is a big thing that we have here, and the more impervious surfaces you put in. So I would just never want to see a drive connecting the two.
No problem. Quick question on that. If it was an entrance for one of the RVs, little recreation vehicles, we have go-karts. For little kids, would that be okay? No driveway, but just access? Is that?
Would it be impervious or would it be gravel? What would
Not-
the,
It'll be just gravel at that point.
Oh, gravel from,
No, no paving, no paving.
what are you talking about? Because I think I'm
Oh,
confused.
just to clarify. So if.
Oh, sorry.
If the kids are goofing around. Property here, which they are today.
Sir?
If there is access on this side. At some point, is that acceptable? If it's not, that's totally fine, we'll just sit around.
I guess that's what I'm asking you. I would be more apt to give you my yes vote if you said that we could restrict that your access is from as shown with no drives on the other side or access.
That's fine, I mean, we'll go to front.
Yeah, and some of your judgment's helpful because we don't know what everyone's doing or what the bigger maybe community problems always are. So I think we're happy to follow whatever you guys are recommending.
any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
we
you coming
appreciate
in.
it.
Yes.
Are these there?
No, the one next to me.
Okay.
Okay. Any thoughts, Member Rissy?
Unless there's further discussion, I'd be willing to propose some action on this.
Let's hear it.
Case number 23-3784, I would move to approve the type 1 special use permit as presented with the following conditions: that any outdoor lighting meets our requirements, that it is not used as a living space and cannot be used to run a business, and there may not be an impervious drive between the residence and the pole building.
Do I hear support?
I would support that.
Okay, Member Rissy makes the motion, Member Brunel supports it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, folks.
Good luck. Moving on to Article 8, case number 23-3789, Craft and 60th East LLC. And do we have to take this off the table as well?
Yeah, since we did take an action to
Your
table.
motion to take it off the table, Member Rissy?
So move.
Member Rissy makes a motion to take it off the table, supported by Member Engel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing any opposed? None. All right.
Yeah, we had this before us at the last meeting. Again, it's a basic plan review to create a new PUD to allow for light industrial development project at the corner of 60th and Craft. It'd be located on approximately 27 acres at the northeast corner of that intersection. It involves their proposes 3 buildings with associated driveways and parking spaces. As we mentioned last time, currently they are showing a significant deviation in the number of parking spaces shown versus required. So that's something we'd look for additional information on as they move forward in the review process. The master plan designates the area as transitional mixed use as well, which allows for similar uses to the transitional industrial zoning district. And that's as long as utilities are available, which they are along Craft Avenue there. That utility extension would need to be approved by City of Grand Rapids, similar to how any curb cuts are approved by Kent County Road Commission. So the applicant will need to receive those approvals along with submitting a full civil plan set that will be reviewed by the township engineer before it comes back before this group. So then once again, this is an introduction phase to the project. So if there are any questions or requests of the applicant, now is a good time to address those. And then the next phase will be scheduling the public hearing with a more formal site plan review. And so in my staff report, I'm listing 9 items that the applicant should submit before it comes back to the Planning Commission, and then any additional items requested by the Planning Commission tonight.
When we tabled this motion, we asked you to check with our new township manager about the potential contaminant with the latest PFAS plume. Did you have an opportunity to talk with him?
I did, yeah. There was about that new contaminant, there was a neighborhood meeting, it was either a week or 2 ago that the state helped put on, and currently they don't believe there's a connection between that one, or they don't see a connection between that contamination and the previous one from Lax on Cascade Road. That's still ongoing, but at this time they don't believe they're connected. And our manager told me that he was comfortable with this project moving forward at this at least preliminary stage in our review process.
Because nothing's being approved tonight, correct?
Yep, correct. We're not approving anything. We're just requesting any additional information we'd want to see as they move forward in the process.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts before I bring up the applicant? Trustee Nordhook.
Oh, well, it's just, in our new zoning map, we've added that, farmland preservation area for the master plan. And we have added a line or saved a line in the 2024 budget for farmland preservation. The board will establish a dollar figure to go in that before the budget's approved. But we had a presentation, I guess I'd say last time, about farmland preservation. And
With the subcommittee you're
yeah,
about.
the subcommittee, and I think we were gonna look at implementing that in new approvals. So we got 27 acres of open space here that's going to be changed into factories, parking lots. We're gonna lose a lot of that green space. So we want to come up with a way of transferring that green space to another area in the township and preserving it. So that quite possible will be a requirement by the time we get to that. So I just want to put that out there so that Lax understands that that could possibly be in the approval process. Not yet, but heading that way. And also would like to reserve an easement for a pathway. So just to kind of throw that out there.
Yep. Yeah, the Farmland Preservation Committees, that's something they've been talking about, and we'll investigate moving forward. And as you mentioned, the pathway, there's been talk at the pathway committee level about a long-term plan for one coming from kind of the east side of the township or along 60th, and then potentially connecting to the Paul Henry Thornapple, which is just a block or 2 away in Kentwood. So that's something, right? We could preserve an easement along that south property line, and something we could look at as part of this review as well.
So changes are coming. They're not here yet.
So potentially, we need to make the applicant aware that there would be a farmland preservation component as well as a easement for the pathway. Okay, I think those.
So the budget line's been set up, and we were instructed about $4,000 an acre is what it would take to purchase development rights from another area.
4,000.
Now we can transfer that money into, pick out of, and purchase.
So 4,000 times 27, is that what you're thinking?
I don't think I would Let's be specific with those numbers. Yeah, because, right.
Just ballpark. is where we're-
Ballpark, setting expectations.
So if I may, so you're basically talking about TDR, transfer development rights. So you're kind of the, I don't know, legal word tit for tat. So they're developing 27 acres. We would be, the change that may or may not be coming is that they would, in exchange for development of 27 acres, set aside and give us the transfer development rights to another property of similar size. Is that correct?
I don't think we're there yet, guys.
We're not.
Still
I'm
talking
trying to
about it in a
understand what he's-
subcommittee and it hasn't come to here yet. It hasn't gone to the board yet.
But
It's
it's-
still a long ways to go.
It does.
He's bringing the, hey, this could happen in the future. You might not want to dawdle on this and that,
You
and
may
if
be
you
the
do, you
first
might
one.
get hit by it.
Okay.
So, but right now, that's not the ordinance. So that's
I
not the
would agree.
metric we should be
Just
going
clarification.
on.
Perhaps member Nordhook is suggesting that the applicant may consider it in their application, or is that what
If I know the Lax family, they'd be delighted to do something like that, but.
Okay.
It's just, I just want to let everybody know that that is coming down the road.
And in terms of the pathway easement, that is something we've done with previous developments, either if it's immediately adjacent to a pathway, they've actually constructed it, or at a minimum, right, provided an easement for a future pathway.
I was gonna bring that one up, but still.
Any other questions for Brian before we bring the applicant up? Yes, member Rissy.
I know, and I guess the applicant can explain this, but with the parking situation, we just in the last one, we had the discussion about impervious surface and runoff. And we have generic numbers as to how many parking spaces we feel somebody should need that's based on square footage, correct?
Right, there's different categories for that based on square footage and things like that.
So if a
based on the
building
use.
is used for warehousing and space, or maybe they've got a lot of robotic equipment doing the assembly, they might not have the same need for parking that our
Correct.
math
Right.
comes
And
up
that's
with.
that's some of the detail they should provide.
Right. Okay. And then the other thing is, and this is small, we're in preliminary here, but I don't see any dumpster enclosures on here for anything.
Yep.
Is
Right, it
that-
might be a little early for
A
that.
little
but
early
it
for
doesn't-
that?
Doesn't hurt
Okay.
to note it, and I'll make sure that's on the full site plan submittal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, member Renaud.
I think you're going to defer to them, but do we have any information, or did our township manager? So one of the uses is they're saying one of them is going to be a paint facility. I'm not a PFAS expert, but I know PFAS is used for, well, we figured out for de-icing and for plating. Have we addressed, is there any PFAS component to paint?
I haven't addressed that yet, so I'll let them speak to that more tonight and something we could address going forward.
And then the second one, I believe the property just to the north of this is the one that we recently approved for a HVAC/tire warehouse. I think it's split use. And there was some great debate about they were going to have basically a water stub. It wouldn't loop back. I noticed that this has a stub going to the eastmost building. Is it too late, or could we look at having them connect so we have a loop and not two stubs?
So that, let me pull that up. I believe the property you're referring to is there's one vacant piece between the two at this time.
That's what the stub was for. That was the vacant one.
But that is something our engineer and the city of Grand Rapids will look at in this next phase still as well. So we haven't gotten that detail yet, but yep, we can certainly include that.
Yes, member Richardson.
I have one quite minor question, I think, probably, but so this property is currently owned by Lax Enterprises, or Lax owns the Craft and 60th East LLC also?
Correct. That's part of the same organization is
Okay.
my understanding. Yep.
We can get that from the applicant directly, that relationship. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, member Rissy.
Brian, is the PUD to the west, is that all fully built out now?
There's not still, no, there's some vacant land kind of between, where the existing Lax facility is with 4 buildings. There's a vacant parcel to the west of that one still.
Okay, that was part of that PUD?
That is, yep. That's part of the Meadowbrook PUD.
Okay.
I have one last one since we're
Yes.
getting into minutia. Oops, sorry, we're not done.
I was just gonna ask him, have there been any concerns or anything with the last with that PUD that we approved a few years ago and that they built out?
Not that
Those
I've
four
been made
buildings.
aware of ever, no.
I haven't heard of any either. I just wanted to check.
Again, coming up to speed, I looked at sections of our zoning ordinance I've never looked at before, that whole 408 from the previous one. On this one, looking at the parking spaces, I went to chapter 19. I think it's like ingress and egress. I forget the exact title. But there's several things in there that I wasn't aware of, like you must have places for bike parking, and there was a lot of stuff in there ad nauseum. Do we normally enforce any of that? Is that something that will come later? Because I don't see a lot of
Sure.
that built into this.
Yeah, right. It wouldn't be at this stage yet. We'd get into the detail with the full site plan review for the next stage.
Cool.
The applicant is present. Thank you, Brian. If you'd come forward, state your name and relationship to the applicant. We have questions.
Oh, I'm Patrick Knight and I work for Lax Enterprises. I'm a facilities engineer.
You're a facilities engineer?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for coming. I know member Richardson asked about the relationship between these LLCs and Lax. Do you have any context you can give us?
I believe it's just the ownership company of all of our landowners and building owners is under those companies, LLCs and stuff. And then Lax rents the buildings from that company.
It's the same common ownership?
Yes, it's all under the same family.
Got it. Okay. Who has questions for the applicant? Do you want to give us an overview of what you're doing? Maybe we'll start there.
Okay, yeah, yes. So, if you can hear me out the microphone or not. So we've got 3 facilities here. Right now, we're just in developmental stages. We don't have anything set in stone on what these will be. So we're planning on what we currently need in the future that we think. And that's a new paint facility, and they'll kind of copy the painter we just built in Kentwood off of 52nd Street. We opened it in 2020. And it's got robot painting in it, so it's automated painting. This would be an assembly building, which is kind of like a building we have over here in Craft on the other side of Craft. It'd just be an assembly cells in the center and then warehousing, push-pull kind of method. So it'd be a lot of warehousing with just a few people in it. And then this building right here would be just pretty much a paint warehouse to service the 2 new painters that we've built in the last few years, just because of the demand of paint is so high that we don't have enough room on site to store a lot of our paint. So we're trying to plan for the future. In terms of the parking lots, there won't be very many people here. So that's why we don't have a lot of parking here. And then both of these, the people will be minimal because there's a lot of automated robots here. And then, like I said, it'll be assembly, but a lot more warehousing than that, like full on assembly. It won't be full of cells. It'll be like a row of cells down the middle and then pack in and out. So there won't be as many people. So the parking should not be as much need as some of the other facilities we have.
What if you sold it to somebody that used it for something different?
That's why we have them in different buildings. We're not connecting and stuff like that. So if we built it sold it to someone else, I'm not sure. I guess
Park on the street?
Well, no, there's enough area around. I think they'll be able to feed this area. I think there's some here too needed, but we never had to sell any facilities in the last since 1980 or since 1916. We've got 30 facilities in Lax, so in Grand Cascade. So we haven't had any issue yet so far. So I don't see that happening anytime soon.
And all those facilities are running as they were intended, or you've never changed what they do?
We've moved maybe some presses around and stuff like that, but other than that, they're all pretty much how we built them, and we kind of set them up, get them running, and when they start making money, we leave them as is. So
okay.
What is the total of the new employees that you anticipate?
So if this painter goes as planned and this ends up being a painter like the 52nd, I believe we're around 200 over 3 shifts. So all of our operations are 3 shifts. So they're split into 3 different shifts. So it's about 100 people per shift here. There'll probably be 50 to 75 here, and then maybe 5 to 10 in this building here, if that needs to just be like guys on high lows going in and out, things like that. So, but again, these are all just basically biggest footprints we could put for now. When we go to actually design these things, I'm sure we'll shrink them. We'll add more parking as needed. We'll work with the city's engineers and stuff. This is just kind of the basic layout we brought to ownership. He wanted to see something on it, kind of just so have in the back pocket, just because the automotive industry is so volatile lately that you never know when you need Sure. More room and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what this plan is. We don't have a need for this in the next like 3 to 5 years. We don't plan on breaking ground on any of this stuff. So we're a little ahead of the game here. We just want to make sure we get in front of you guys in case there's any issues that we can address, make sure everyone's on the same page. So it's pretty much the reason for tonight.
All right, what questions do we have? Member Rissy?
You don't see any problems with easement along the road in case we had a bike path built there in the next decade or two?
No, I wouldn't think we would have any issues with easements around the road. There is a lot of drainage ditches there, so it'd be kind of hard to get one in there, but I don't think we would have any issue with walkways. We have them around all of our other facilities. It's not a big deal.
Thank you.
Member Bruno?
Just the one, do you know, is there a PFAS component to your paint?
Not that I'm aware of. No, it's all, like you said, it's in the plating and dewatering and stuff like that. So they use it for wetting agents in the plating facilities and stuff like that. And we're more than well aware of that chemical now. We make sure we take care of all of our water. All of our water coming in or going out is cleaner than our water going in. We take care of it. And it's a big eyes on project at LAX. So it's not something we take lightly, but no, from what I know, there won't be any PFAS issues as this is currently laid out.
Thank you.
Couple things, the parking, I think we'd want to see additional parking if you put together your plan. So I would just give that thought.
Yep.
And then as Trustee Nordhook said, if it's 3 to 5 years, there's a high probability there'll be a farmland preservation component because you're redeveloping. green
Yeah,
space.
that was kind of news to me, but I'm glad we're aware of it. So at least we know. So
Yeah. And I mean, it's not, he kind of gave you round numbers. It's not anything that's egregious. It's pretty reasonable, I think. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Member Rissy?
Is it acceptable to ask that the additional parking be that there's a designated area for additional parking in the event that it's needed in the future, as opposed to having somebody pave acres of area that doesn't actually need to be parked on?
We have some standards
It's
for deferred
reserved.
parking and some requirements for
Yeah,
that.
I think maybe that's the direction we give him is work with
Yeah.
Brian on that.
Okay.
He
I
knows
was
what we
fine.
like to see there. Yeah, and
I'm very supportive of Scott's idea.
just wanted to
Back to
be-
the
I just
impervious.
wanted
It's not,
clarification.
it's not paved. We don't need to pave.
I mean, point.
no, that's a great point.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or any other direction we want to give him? Again, it sounds like we're a little ways out, so I'm happy you're here early than late.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Try to get as involved as quick as we can with you as
Yeah.
soon as we knew what our plans are. So
I mean, don't get me wrong, I plow snow, so I like parking areas. But, yeah.
I guess just my last parting thing, since this is just, he's going to be back before us. I think, obviously I'm beating the PFAS thing, but it's very much in the public. We've got one board member who's dealing with it. I had a couple neighbors call me about this. So I think when you do go to public hearing, I think there's going to be a lot of questions about LAX and PFAS. So I think if you're armed and ready to say, this is what we're doing, it's PFAS free, just set yourself up for success.
okay, yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. We'll make sure we do that.
appreciate you coming in front of us.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to case number 23-3791, Sanchez Marfil.
Hello.
Hello.
We have Augustin Sanchez Marfil here this evening from 2568 Linda Avenue. He's in our R2 district on an acre parcel just off of Burton and Craft area. This applicant is requesting an accessory building exceeding 832 square feet, which would require this type 1 special use permit. He's proposing a prefab. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get the plans in front of you. Okay. It's a prefab carport construction, measuring 30 by 40 for a total of 1,200 square feet. The height of the building is indicated as 12 feet to the top of the eave. It's probably between 12 and 13 to the midpoint. The setbacks are meeting our zoning ordinance standards. There is an easement on the west side of his property, but he's 20 feet off of that. So he is in compliance with the setback standards. The homes in the area, there aren't very many detached accessory buildings. It's predominantly attached garages with some accessory buildings around 600 square feet. Granted, those are smaller parcels, but that's kind of what is in the area around this property. The few applications that we have gotten in the R2 district, they're not very common, have been between 900 and 1,400 square feet. But this would be 1,200 square feet on a 1 acre parcel. So we have allowed larger on a 1 acre parcel. So this wouldn't be an outlier, but it is on the larger side. The applicant, I was discussing with the applicant the design of the building and how it will be, what will be on the outside, if will be wood or steel or whatever he is designing, and he said he would have answers at the meeting, so I can't confirm the exterior design more than what was submitted in the building plans. The applicant has indicated that the building will be used for personal storage of vehicles and other various personal items. This would be the only accessory building permitted on his property because he has 1 acre. He currently does not have any accessory buildings on the property. I haven't received any formal letters for public comment. I did receive a couple emails today. They couldn't confirm if they wanted them on the record, but I can provide them to you if you would like to read them. So looking at our findings of fact, the proposed location is in line with the general architectural character of the building. I could not confirm this, so refer to the applicant. The size of the building in relation to the house is about 1,500 square feet, plus an additional finished basement. So the zoning district has allowed the R1 and the ARC have allowed accessory buildings larger than the home. The other homes in the neighborhood have mostly attached garages, as I mentioned. So it would be not as common as other surrounding properties. The proposed building affecting light and circulation of adjoining properties. It is an interesting parcel where it has a home directly behind it. There is a number of trees kind of blocking the home, but adding this home would make it a little less visible. So it's hard to say for sure if it would affect it negatively. The point of access would be the existing drive used on that west side where the ingress egress easement is for the neighbor behind them. So in reviewing that and pending the design, if it was in line with the character of the neighborhood, I would recommend approval with our standards that it's not used to run a business or for a dwelling place, and that the outdoor lighting adheres to the Cascade Township ordinance standards, and the applicant has agreed to those conditions.
Any questions for Madison? Yes, Member Renaud.
In the image you have up on the overhead camera, looks like in blue ink, there's a 25-foot. I'm guessing that's the easement you're referencing to the west.
Correct.
Do we have the terminology of the easement? Because typically an easement would be such that it grants access to the property from the 2562. It's usually not. I've never seen an easement written in this configuration where it would allow access to 2568 and 2562. So
I'm looking, it's in the legal description. I went over it with our assessor.
and if that's not written in there, is 2562 been pulled? Are they willing to share their drive and let him use it?
Can you explain your question more? What are you asking?
So you're saying there's an easement to the west, and I'm imagining the easement wording says something to the effect of for access to 2562. It
He
probably
wants to
doesn't
know-
say for access to 2562 and 2568 because 2568 already has access.
Correct.
May I?
Sure.
He wants to know who owns the easement and what's their opinion on this project?
Sure.
Have you heard from the person that owns it?
No.
Okay.
But there are,
But they did
There are-
appear to be present, so we can get them at the. public hearing.
Residents.
Okay.
yeah, neighbors here tonight
Yeah.
that can clarify.
Any other questions for Madison?
I have.
One, sorry.
Go ahead, Member Richardson.
One minor question. Where is 2560 in relation to 2568? I know that has maybe nothing to do with this, but when I was looking up the property earlier, did the address change at some point?
There is some confusion with the address that I did clarify with the building department. So this is 2568, the property tonight. And I think August had mentioned before too, there was some confusion with the address, that it has been listed as 2560 in other places. So I could get you the parcel number if needed.
No, that's a sufficient answer.
I
Thank
have
you.
that.
So 2560, if you look it up, it doesn't, I don't believe it shows up unless you see it on the map, Scott. But they're 2568 and behind them is 2562. So I think it's just missed for some reason.
here.
I couldn't find the
And then
full
one
details.
other quick question that sort of piggybacks on his question from earlier. The driveway for 2562 is actually on the property of 2568, like it's not owned by 2562. Is that correct?
I believe it's owned by 2568 and there's an ingress egress easement for 2562.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask for clarification on his question before you go, because it's related to that. So the 2560 we think is just an owner confusion. There's no documentation because I saw it on the front of the house. He's got an address on each side of the door. So it's not a duplex. 2560 for some reason is a point of confusion, but you've seen no documentation that supports that.
Correct.
Member Rissy?
I was just gonna ask her to remove the lax stuff off of the camera so that it doesn't provide confusion. Thank you.
Okay, if the applicant is here, and would like to come up. We'd love to hear from you. If you could state your name when you get up here and walk us through your plan. We have questions and you have neighbors here who certainly have opinions, so I'm sure we'll bring you up after they ask some questions.
All
So
right, good night. My name is Agustin Marfield. I just moved into this property. I just bought this property. I'm looking to build a little barn right there. I saw enough room for do it without touch the forest. It fits perfectly if you see it in this survey. That's what Madison was talking about. The two addresses actually exist in my door. In one side is 2568, and in the other side of the door is 2560. The mailing address is 2568, and the two gas and electricity is 2560. So when I start, it's kind of confusing. When I moved there, I try to get just one address. So when I went to apply for this barn, I talked to Madison what we can do to just have one address because it's kind of confusing. Well, this little barn I wanna build right there, I'm gonna use it for personal use. I own a very classic Firebird. I would like to storage there. It runs twice a year into Metro show. So nobody drive it in regular time. It's just for showing. And I got a bunch of stuff I would like to storage. My garage is full of stuff now. I got little things outside too that it doesn't make looks the neighborhood. I know when you are new in the neighborhood and your race is different than around, everybody look at you like is watching you. I feel watched. I am not a bad person. I got 2 kids. I got 3 kids, 2 young men, decent men, working men. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't party. We got a 9-year-old girl. My wife work, I work. We never party. We are a family, a working family. So we're not planning to do. I'm sorry if there are any neighbor in here. If I'm making them uncomfortable, or making them not happy with this project I got in hand or in mind. But I need that thing. So if you see 30 by 40, it's a little piece like this. It's not that big. Of course, Madison told me you qualify for 832, but with 832 square feet, it's so small. I go fill it out with a car. The rest of my stuff is still going to be around in the garage. In my basement, my furnace is finished. There is no room for storage in the basement. So I think that's it. I'm not asking for too much stuff. Just a barn for 30 by 40. I maybe I got a neighbor. In here in the easement, the house in the back, maybe I go block the house a little bit. Still a good space in between, but it's going to be the barn and house. The driveway, that easement, he has a good view right there. And there is in the other side by my house, in back of my house, there's a good view, Either he has, in this area in here, he has kind of a bushes of tree in here that make look his house nicely. I would like to live there because it's pretty private. In the west side, in this side in here, I got another neighbor, it's my house and the barn is going to be, it's kind of far from where I'm going to build my farm, my barn. Across the street, I got two more neighbors, a lady that I don't know. I see it every now and then, and a couple that is very nice too. They are here too. She is here. And I got another gentleman in the east part of my house that is very educated and very nice person. We've been going along, say hi, how you doing? Respectful with everybody. I would like keep it like that. I don't want to be. The people is not happy with me because I'm the new guy in the block. I think that's what I have to say here.
Have you spoken to your neighbors?
Well, yeah, I've been talking to them, with this beautiful lady. I've been talking to them with her husband and another people in the corner. There is people who live around the Linda that they drive, they come to watch what the Hispanic guy is doing right there, But besides, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 neighbors around my house. Around Linda going Burton, there's another people that they see us driving by every day and they start saying hello. And I do too, respectful with everybody. I try to be along with everybody. But beside that, there is nothing to. I just try to be nice with everybody. I just try to be respectful.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? We can go to the public hearing and maybe bring the applicant back after that happens. So,
I just have
yeah,
one.
yeah, trustee
I'm confused as to which building you're building. You've got one with kind of a round eave and another one with a standard gable drip edge. Which one is it?
I have more pictures.
One looks like it says regular. It's got the rounded eaves, and then the other one says apron. Which one is it?
One looks open-ended, the other one does not.
Well, actually, it's going to be like this, with double door. Like this one, double door, you know, in the front, and one door in the back of the building. The little entrance door is going to be facing the back of my house. And this is going to be facing the easement. But is there any issue with the entrance? In here is going to be the building, the barn. In here the little door, and here is going to be the two doors, the two overhead doors. But is there any issue to coming in this easement or this driveway? I'm going to ask for a permit to build a driveway straight into my land to go into the barn. So the people who lives there is a very nice people in here, you know, I met them. Is there it's necessary to fix this easement, this driveway? I agree to put some money from my pocket to make a nice driveway so he can use it. Both of us, we can use the driveway. That's no big deal to fix that driveway. So in the beginning, I thought to use that easement. It's my land. I don't know if I allowed to do it, to use the easement. There is another easement there, in the other end of my land. You know, I'm happy with that. That doesn't bother me at all. Whatever you guys decide, I'm gonna follow the rules.
thank you. We may call you back after the public hearing. So,
Thank you much.
yeah, go ahead, member Bruno and then member Rissy.
I'm not sure if this is your image or not, but I think part of it. So do you know what the red band signifies? Is that kind of front yard? Is that close? It's
The
a
red
little,
flags?
no, the red band on this picture. Is that
That's just
denoting
my-
front yard?
My
Oh,
image.
this thing?
That's just where he couldn't build when we were talking about his
Okay, okay.
plans.
And then where the barn is going, is he just got rocks or what is that currently? Is that something drawn on top of here or do you have something already kind of?
In here?
No, to your left. Yeah.
Right here?
Is that just something drawn on the paper?
Yeah, in here is where the barn is going to be.
Okay.
So it's in the easement, in the survey, you can see it clearly here.
Yep.
So this building here is the 40 feet than
No, I got that. I just don't know if you had any footings in or what that was. That's just scratches on a paper.
yeah. So in here is going to be the barn, 40 feet from here, 25 from here, and 30 plus from the back of my neighbor, from the person who lives behind the house.
Sir, so you don't know whether you have reserved use of that easement on the west side in the legal document? And if you haven't, then you would go in from the front and create a second driveway to your property?
Well, I thought in build a driveway here, you know, if they don't allow me to use the easement. If they don't allow me, if the city of the township allow me to build a driveway in here, is what I want.
Any other questions for the applicant before we do the public hearing? Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll probably bring you, reserve the right to bring you back. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you much.
I hear a motion to go to public hearing. Yes, member Ritchie.
I can ask my question after the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by member Engel, supported by member Brunel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this time we have a public hearing. If you'd like to come and make a statement, we do limit these to 5 minutes per person. Please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Rihanna Dawson and I live at 2562. So we're behind his property. Our driveway is literally one lane and we're landlocked, so that's our only way in and out of our property. I don't really see how it would work if we had people coming in when we need to go out. Would definitely create some traffic issues. As far as like the location of the building from our house, we do have some brush that's in the front of that, but it's nothing that's blocking our view to the main street. We have recently renovated our home, so we're not actually living there. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in, making it a better place for us. So as far as in our family, and as far as like this project is kind of like a little shell shock for us because it would definitely be a sore eye to what we have going on. So we're definitely not in agreement with it. As far as the storage, like we've mentioned, a storage unit this size in a residential neighborhood is really not, it doesn't go with the whole like neighborhood feel and the use of our green space. And that's why we live back there, is because of the country setting and the trees and the atmosphere and the quiet space that we have in the city. So that's really all I have to say.
You have the shared driveway that he was alluding to.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and so you don't know if that's something that is shared or with the.
It's on their property.
It is on their property.
Mhm. And it's only just we're responsible for the driveway and obviously the pavement and everything and the asphalt, however it looks. We haven't put any money into it because we knew we were doing this renovation, and it is our plan to, it really has to be completely dug up. It has old asphalt on it, and then it's a mix of dirt. So we had somebody come in and estimate what it would look like to replace it. And they said it's so far gone that they'd have to dig down and totally replace everything.
Yeah.
Put asphalt and concrete in there.
But legally, there's no reason he couldn't use that driveway, which is on his property.
I don't know. I don't
He
know.
would have to reserve the right in the easement to use it. Otherwise, he would not have the legal right to use it, other than the neighbor saying, hey, it's okay.
Which isn't happening here. Member Bruno?
You referenced, you said you're responsible for the road and for the upkeep of it.
Yeah.
You're basing that off of what?
Basing
Is
it
there a
off,
private
like,
drive
when-
road maintenance agreement or like?
Yeah, just from when we bought the house, like, gosh, it's been since 2000. Is it?
Well, where I'm
16,
going with
I
this, and I'm not the lawyer on this, but I think
I
you
should,
need to
I
look at
could
that and see
look,
who
but
are
we
parties to that agreement, because that'll specify who has use of that road. If you're solely responsible for it, then I'm imagining you're solely, you have sole use of it. That'd be my guess, but.
Yeah, like I said, we're not in our house and we've got things in storage, so I didn't get a chance to look at our actual like loan agreement and everything regarding the parcel. So I can look into that if.
So the easement was in place when you purchased the house, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Drew Somsel. I live at 2549 Linda. I am directly west of the proposed structure. I'd like to thank the committee for having the public comment session regarding the special use permit. I'd like to express some of my concerns regarding the proposed structure. I met Augie this September. On the Saturday, they were already pouring the concrete slab for the structure. And from that conversation, I got a lot of mixed messages. I took some notes after that conversation. At first it's just going to be a slab for parking vehicles. Then it turned into a small storage shed. And by the time the conversation was over, he had already obtained a permit and for the structure and couldn't explain why there was going to be a hearing for this little structure. A week later, I received the notice from the township regarding the special use permit application and how a 30 by 40 garage was proposed. I was surprised because this was not what we had discussed when we were talking out on the street. I was also disappointed to see one of the concrete trucks backed into one of my oak trees, and the concrete finishers cleaned all their tools and dumped all that wastewater on my property, and left a mess behind. So I'm a little disheartened and frustrated with how our early interactions have gone with my new neighbor thus far. I feel like I was being a little bit gaslit during the conversation, and there was no care taken by any of the hired help with regards to my property. I understand the application states that the structure is going to be used for personal storage. I'm concerned with this because one of the residents at the home is a mechanic at a local dealership, and I fear that the structure will quickly turn from personal storage to fixing and flipping cars. There are a number of vehicles without license plates on the property right now, and a vehicle on jack stands in the driveway that's been like that for since they moved in. I would also like to make sure that this doesn't happen. My wellhead is about 50 feet away from the proposed structure. And we don't want to hear the extra noise. So after reviewing the print, the proposed structure, I did notice that the wall height is 12 foot. That is not the peak height on that's diagrammed on the print. So I just like that noted. And maybe Augie can give some more clarification on that. The facade of the building is going to be rolled sheet metal from what it appears, and it is not going to fit in at all with the neighborhood. And the garage opening would be facing directly into my bedroom, and we're not pleased with that. There are a few trees between my residence and the proposed structure. They consist of oak and cherry. However, most of those trees do not have any lower branches. All those trees are probably 50, 60 foot tall. All the lower branches are gone. So there is no privacy between the two properties. And it would leave a clear line of sight. To be clear, I'm not against the desire to own a large structure. I would love to have one myself one day, but I don't feel this size of structure, or even a structure up to 832 square feet, would fit harmoniously in with the neighborhood, and especially in the proposed location. I would support it more if he was adding to their existing attached garage that's attached to the house. And I believe this size structure would be much better suited for a home in a more rural environment, with a larger lot size instead of a residential neighborhood setting. Augie, I sincerely hope we're able to have a positive neighborly relationship moving forward, but I respectfully disagree with your proposal to put this structure or any structure in this location. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dale Summers, 2520 Linda, live around the corner. First, I'd like to say, as a former chairman and member of the Kent County Road Commission, I understand the importance of you trying to balance the need of the community, the neighborhood, and individuals in matters like this. However, I think this request has several issues. First of all the documents that I have looked at does not show this as a 1 acre parcel, but something less than that, anywhere from 0.98 to something a little bit less than that. The request for the outbuilding, as large as this, on a dead end street with 24 houses, 5 of which are tri-levels, and all were built in the 50s and 60s. The proposed outbuilding is, as far as my opinion, is in the front yard. I think when you look at that plan that is here now, there's 42 feet right here. It's a little bit more than this, but this building rests as far as visually in the front yard, which from my perspective, based on planning documents, then must meet some other requirements. The 200-foot setback from the road, now it's about 45, and 60 feet from the property line, not 40. There appears to be no variance in regards to this. I take that from chapter 17 of special uses, 8B, number 3. The proposed building is a right-of-way. It's not a driveway, which some have referred to it as. Also, in taking a look at past deliberations of this board, 1,200 square foot buildings have been okayed by 18 times. 15 times it was larger than 1 acre, 3 were an acre or less, and all 3 had buildings or homes of 3,300 to 3,500, and no building was visible from the road. And I take that from looking at real estate documents for 4555 Little Harper. It's a gate community, 1350 Brandcliffe, and 4290 Cherry Lane. All of the remaining ones had 15 of them over a number of year period, were an acre or larger. Type of siding that would fit in with the community has not been discussed. And on Sunday, I don't know how many vehicles they plan to store, but 2 were brought in on Sunday on tow trucks and put on the property. Visually, this is the property. This is the back corner looking out towards Linda. This is the slab that was poured, and it's quite obvious that the entire point to it on the paper. There you go. It's quite obvious that this is the slab. This is where the right of way is, and the home. These are some of the vehicles that appeared on Sunday. The vehicles in the driveway. This one is on Jack's. And I think there is too many variances that need to be addressed to approve any type of building where it presently exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Furlet and I live at 2549 Linda. I was not planning to speak tonight, but based off some things Augie said, I wanted to clarify. I got sentiments that this may be a race issue or, you know, a neighborhood effort against a minority in our neighborhood, and that is not at all where myself or my partner, and I can almost speak for everybody behind me, come from. It has nothing to do with ethnicity or race. The previous owner was Vietnamese. The owner before that was Inuit, and there were never issues. This is regarding the structure that is proposed to be built because of the sheer size of it and not fitting in with the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Since Augie and his family have moved in, there's been an increase in traffic. This is a dead end road. So where my house is the one that's directly west of the driveway they would use to access this. That's a cul-de-sac up there. And how fast the cars go from Augie's house has already been a concern. There are a lot of small children playing outside. There are a lot of animals. I have a dog. Outside, and they kind of whip around that corner. And since they've moved in, the traffic on that street has increased substantially. And there's no outlet for them. You know, they have to go turn around and come back down. On the property right now, there are 7 parked cars. That's not including Augie's work van. So I know he mentioned that his garage is full. I don't know if he parks his work van in the garage, but with his work van, there are 7 additional cars, and the 2 that Dale showed are in the side yard, which is right outside of my bedroom window. And we used to be able to have that, you know, open and see kind of the trees and the brush. And now it has to be closed kind of permanently because of privacy, because the slab is right there. So I wanted to address those few things because I did not feel comfortable with how that sat with me. I wanted to set that record straight and have that noted. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kim LeClaire and I live at 2490 Linda Avenue. So that is farther down the road. Like she said, it is a dead end. And I have 3 of the at least 11 kiddos that live on the street. And so I would attest to that there has been definitely an increase in traffic. But I wanted to second your statement that I would feel terrible that you have not felt welcomed, because I would not, we haven't met yet. But I heartfeltly want to say that I do not want you to feel unwelcome on our street. Up until this past year, we've been a street that really has had a lot of block parties and have had a really, really congenial street. It is the type of street where people hang out on the road and the kids run back and forth. And so I don't want to lose that over. I love that about our dead end and small community. And so I don't want to lose that over something of this size. But I would also say that we're against having what feels to us like a storage unit that is commensurate with the size of the house on the street, as far as not feeling like it fits with the aesthetics and of it would not fit in kind of with the look of the street to have something of that size blocking a lot of those houses in there. So I would like to just, say that we are against it, but that I hope that this does not really provide a lot of strife on our street. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward?
I'm Judith Kemp, and I live at 2559 Linda Avenue. And I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but after hearing my neighbors speak, I am very concerned about the size of the structure and its proximity to the other neighbors. And one of the neighbors that did not come today, because she has a really long day on Mondays, she said she sent an email objecting because it's right out her front window. She's looking right at the proposed spot. I met Augie a couple times, and he's a sweet guy, and I think he's got really good intentions, and I just wondered if people could help him figure out another place to put this storage area that would not interrupt the views and the lives of the other folks. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madison, do we have anybody on Zoom?
Not motion to speak.
I think one moment, I need to close the public hearing. In a moment you can, but please, I think we can at this point hear a motion to close the public hearing.
I've moved to close the public hearing. Support.
Member Moxley moves to close the public hearing. Member Ringo supports. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Do we want to have any conversation before we bring the applicant forward, or do we want to bring the applicant forward first?
I have a question. Maybe Madison can answer it. I guess I'm surprised that they've already poured the slab on this project. How did that happen?
I don't think you need a permit to pour a slab.
You don't need permits to pour cement or do excavation work. So he was able to do that, but he was told, you're not approved to build until the meeting makes a determination.
Okay.
So yeah, he's able to do those things without a permit.
Simultaneously, he'd be able to build a driveway to the garage if he so decided to do that. Is that correct?
I believe he would need a new curb cut from the road commission.
It's a private road, isn't it?
Is it a road?
Linda's a county. Do you have questions, or do you want to bring the applicant forward?
Just a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead, member, or trustee Norhuck.
This survey does show that it's less than 1 acre.
Okay.
Does that change? In our zoning, does that change anything for a parcel less than 1 acre?
Does that, Madison? I don't think it does. Up to 1 acre.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Richardson?
No, we did clarify from his question earlier that this is not a carport. This is a enclosed garage, correct?
Let's confirm that with the applicant when he comes forward. Any other questions for Madison? Yes, member Ritchie.
What are the required setbacks for the height and size of the building that he's proposing?
Side yards, 25 to the rear yard, and behind the front line of the home.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's Madison, that's based on 832 square feet, right?
That's based on.
At 1,200 square foot? Or does that size doesn't really matter? It's by height, right? Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if you'd like to step forward again, allow you to answer any questions that were asked, and then we have additional questions.
All right. Yeah, I feel sorry, they don't like my idea. They complain about cars. I got 2 young kids. They own 2, 3 cars each one. I asked them, we had no chance to get rid of the vehicles. I told them, I knew this about this thing. I've been living in nice spaces too. We get rid of one yesterday. The other one are in the process to go away. I asked them they have to keep just 1 vehicle by head. Beside my wife, I am a glass contractor. I drive a full-size van, and I own a pickup truck. So, if the lady count for a lot of vehicles by her bedroom, they own a bunch of vehicles too. You see in here, that huge truck that is in the picture, it blocked all this, the side they can have. Either the lady who live behind my house and her own house. So they talk about vehicles and they block the view when you reach Linda. There is another picture. Look at that truck. It's blocking my house too. It's blocking her house. It's blocking the neighbor who lives behind my house. Behind here, this view and here, wherever you go, these vehicles are blocking the view. There is another picture here. They cover completely the view of the street, from her house, from the other neighbor house, from all neighbor house. So, and beside that, they have more vehicles in his parking lot. I don't say nothing. I don't care. Really, I don't care. You know, it's okay. If they don't want be part of my idea, I respect that. You know, like I say in the beginning, I follow the rules. I'm sorry if you're not happy with me, with my idea. But there's neighbors who live way far and they don't have to see nothing with the thing. And the traffic, well, we are for people who drive at home. I leave in the morning and come back 2 or 3 times at my house. My wife go take the girl to school, she gotta come back. She leave 5 o'clock and come back 2 o'clock in the morning. So one of my kids work for me. He don't drive, just Monday, he go karate class. Wednesday and Friday go karate class, and Saturday then he go to guitar class. You know, and Saturdays my wife drive with me. So that traffic, it's possible. It's a little bit more now. You know, we are 4 people who drives now. Yeah, and I'm sorry about that too. And I try to be careful because I have a kid too. You know, I like if you come drive around my house and my kid is around, hey, slow down. And I try to do that. I respect because I respect the kids all the time. Really, I do. If you got your kids right there, I'm going to pull completely and allow them to pass with everybody. You know, if you guys really, I'm sorry this don't come along, but we're going to be living in the same community. You know, if this approved or no approved, we're going to keep living there. We can't be against each other. I dare to help you guys. If you need a favor from me, I'm going to be so glad to help you. I would like,
yeah. Sir,
the other part.
Sir, if I could, you probably should, you need to address this. We have some questions. So I'm going to start.
Yes, sir.
Member Bernal, Member Rissy, Member Engel.
I need another clarification from Madison. As someone in the audience aptly pointed out, the 12-foot is to the it's wall height, and at a 12.3 pitch, 15 feet to the peak, so it's about 4 feet, and you go mid slope, so it's 14 plus. Does that change setbacks? Because you said the setbacks you were saying for 12 to 13, this would be 14 plus technically.
Is that 14 from the center or is that 14 the average? Because it's the average, not the center.
The midpoint.
Yeah.
Midpoint. 14 would be the.
If 14 is the midpoint, that's the same. The setback is for up to 14, and then the next section is 15 to 18. Let me verify.
That could be changed.
15 to 18, and then that has a 40-foot setback, and then 19 feet to 22 feet would have a 60-foot setback. So he would still be within the same setback.
Thank you.
Yeah, that could be changed. You know, I don't need that high, you know.
Member
It's useful, but
yeah. Member Rissy.
I'm going to let you guys go first.
Okay, Member Engel.
Mr. Monfil, is there another size, perhaps a reduced size of this building that might still suit your needs?
Yes. It could be 30 by 30 by 10. It's way smaller, not that high.
And would you be in a position to move ahead with a smaller building that perhaps had some greater refinement of the exterior rather than the steel that we've talked about here?
Well, yes, I can go. I can build an extra garage, the same model like this in my house, you know, but that's going to cost me the double. And if I buy something like that, they come and install it in 2 days for me. And the third day I'm going to be storage, using the storage right away. If I start building that, it's going to take me at least, I'm going to do it by myself. We got a builder's license. So I have to work too. So I'm going to be using 3-4 hours. Nailing gas, Papa, I'm going to be bothering everybody. Every weekend, every single weekend I'm going to be working. The snow is coming up. I'm going to stop this thing in the springtime again till I finish it. You know, it's kind of complicated for me. I thought to buy this stuff, and I got an idea for my house. I'm going to build instead the plastic. I'm going to ask for a permit to instead the siding, that a plastic siding. I'm going to add rock all around my house, the front and the side and the garage too. That's the same idea I was going to do with this building. I'm going to do the 3 feet down, all rock around, fake rock. You know, it's a nice siding.
Wainscot.
Yeah, very, very nice wainscot. You know, that's the idea. I wanna make it like Madison says, the other gentleman says, like with the rest of the houses. It's kind of a ranch. All the houses are ranch right there. I'm going to do that stuff in my house and in the barn.
Any other questions on this side?
Yeah.
Marissa? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, do you plan to have heat or water in the building?
Heat, yes, and electricity, no water.
Okay. And do you plan to do any landscape screening around the building, like planting trees or anything to kind of disguise it a little bit from
Yes.
maybe some neighbors that might not want to see it?
Yes, yes. It's going to be, I got actually 10 little pines now. Eventually they're going to be, they go like that.
Yeah.
They're going to be straight. You know, I'm going to plant them every 3 feet. So when they grow up, they're going to be together and they don't go over 12 feet.
How did you pick this spot on your property? As far as, I mean, I know you have a large lot. You could have, you know, what prompted you to put the concrete slab there as opposed to a different location?
That's a good question. It's the only spot without cut a tree.
Okay.
I got trees in here, in the back, and in this side. And I got one in the back of this lot, you know, facing the west side. So we measure right there. It don't gotta be 30 by 40. If you guys think it gotta be smaller, it could be 30 by 30, 900 square feet, you know. And I'm going to push it all the way, and the slab in the front is going to be like a sidewalk to make it way further from the neighbor house. If that allowed for me, I go plant trees in here to cover the little barn, the face. I can change the entrances instead facing their house, it could be facing the street. In here, the access door is going to be here. In here is the two doors, and one in here. I could make a door in here and a door in here. Eliminate these doors in here. So it's going to be just maybe a little window in here, in this wall. Just to get like that. I mean, again, so two doors right there, going there and coming out. It's going to be kind of I can change the model of the barn.
Go ahead, Member Engel.
Has your son done any service work on vehicles at your residence at all?
He worked in his car. He worked in his car.
Other than his own cars, other folks' cars?
No, no.
And it's not his plan to do that?
No, no.
Yes, Member Richardson.
Earlier you mentioned that you called it, I feel like, a barn, a garage. At one point, looking at the diagram, it looked like a carport to me. This is not a carport, correct? This will be an enclosed garage if this were to go forward. Is that correct?
I don't know if I can call it garage or barn or carport, you know.
3 walls and 2 doors.
3 walls, 2 doors, and 3 doors.
3 doors.
3 doors, a little one.
But
you
no
know,
open space. It will be enclosed and
Enclosed.
completely sheltered.
Yeah, completely. You won't see inside.
Okay.
So if I close my door, you won't see inside.
And then the car that you say that you want to store in this, where are you currently? Is that currently on your property?
It's in my garage.
Okay. So you want to move the car from your garage to this?
Yeah, I want my wife to use the garage for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Member Renault?
I have one I'm hesitant to ask because it's already got the slab, but so your slab is there because you weren't going to cut down any trees, but if you can't use the shared drive, or I shouldn't call it shared drive, the drive that you hope is shared, if it's not shared, you would put in a drive that would necessitate cutting down a tree that's already there. So if you are going to cut down trees, where I'm going with this is a long story, but would you consider putting it in the what would this be? The southeast corner of the lot? With our setbacks and kind of doing a rough scale, wouldn't it fit behind your current driveway?
It does fit without touch a tree. I can make a driveway without touch a tree. I got that in mind too. I wouldn't touch a tree. I love those trees. And they go, if you drive it on Linda, my land is kind of like this in a little hill, and the trees cover, you're barely going to see the barn. Really, you're barely going to see it. After those trees is going to be grown, it's going to be completely covered, and it's going to be nice. We just moved there. Maybe the next spring we're going to be landscape very nice around. What we want to is make that property looks good.
I guess my only comment there is I did drive the property today, and I think this is almost where your trampoline is at. Is that correct? Very
Well,
close.
the trampoline is behind my house because that's the drain field. The drain field right there. I can do nothing that way because it's the drain field and the septic tanks are behind my house. So the drain field is pretty big.
Okay, any other additional questions? I'd like to. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any discussion? I think it's too big. I'll put it, start there. I think 832 square feet is candidly too big for this lot, but that is our zoning, so I can't support it as it is. Yeah, go ahead.
The slab being located basically in the front yard is what bothers me. This is 45 feet back from the property line. The existing corner of the building is 42 feet back from the property line. I don't understand why it was placed out there to start with, and I'm really disturbed that the slab has already been poured. The foundations are in, basically.
I hear what you're saying, but I think according to our code, as long as it's greater than 42 feet back, it's not in the front yard. Which I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that's an issue. What I have issue with is the if we're going to go off of ordinance, 4.08 is pretty clear that it should match the character of the home. So that's the one I'm struggling with. The rest is personal preference, and I don't think I'm here to exert personal preference. I'm here to enforce ordinances, and I think that ordinance is pretty clear.
I don't know. I tend to disagree with that.
Disagree with
Just personally, I think we are here to do the will of the township. When I hear from a bunch of neighbors that they don't like it, like I take that into consideration, just personally.
Okay.
So, but
That's fair.
certainly that's your call. But I think the material, I concur with you, is a concern.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember.
Go ahead.
Let's just say he would be entitled to build an 832 square foot structure on this site with nothing more than a building permit, correct?
Correct. Member Richardson?
I didn't quite understand the answer from your question earlier when you asked why it wasn't near the current garage or driveway on the, I guess it's the southeast.
So let me, I'll circle back to that. I just want to clarify. So member Engel, I believe you to be correct. Everyone said that that's correct. 832 with just a building permit, but it would have to match the character, correct?
Correct. That's true for any building over
For
200 square
that's,
feet.
That's still the elephant in the room. Answering your question, I don't believe I got an answer. I led him down a path saying if he's going to cut down a tree, why not consider there? And he said he wouldn't be cutting down any trees. So I set myself up for failure, I guess, in that question. So we could maybe re-ask the question. Would he consider putting it in the what would that be, the southeast corner?
Just seems, I mean, that's already the driveway. There's already a garage there. It's not in someone else's
Madison,
view
go ahead.
of the street.
The drain field and septic is in the southeast.
Right. Drain field and septic, so it prevents it from being there.
I struggle with that though, because
That close.
I drove it today, and where the trampoline is, if that's where the drain field is, which is what he just said, that is, the trampoline is on, if you're looking at the PDF, so the 42 feet, I guess, would be the, what is that? How do I say this? The apex of the building closest to the disputed shared drive is where the trampoline is right now. So based on that, it looks like his drain field is not where we're proposing.
Somebody any other questions or thoughts, trustee?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like the material is.
Your concern?
That was what I was gonna say. I'm just curious, and Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want to ask this or not for a show of hands from people in the audience, but I'm curious if this was a building that was built in a more traditional, how should I say, stick-built building with materials that matched the home, the character of the homes in the area and the other buildings in the area, would there be potentially more support for it than the prefabricated structure that he's proposing?
Would you raise your hand if you would support a stick built, same size, same everything? It's just stick built versus the metal material? Same size.
And as proposed or a small?
No, as proposed.
As proposed. What if it was 900
If
feet?
it was not,
100 square foot building is basically the footprint of almost every house on that street.
so if it was 900 square feet, same, okay.
No,
Where it is probably the biggest issue.
it's as big as the house. Overall footprint of the house.
Before we continue on, can I get a quick show of hands of planning commission members who would support this?
Can I make a comment to the planning commission first that might
Yeah.
have bearing on that? So just so that we are all aware, there is there's another accessory building in the neighborhood, ironically across the street. And that building, just for reference, is approximately 700 square feet. As best I can tell from this really grainy photo.
But it's under, we think it's under 832.
It's
behind the house.
I believe so.
Okay.
So as long as we're engaging the, I guess, the public in voting.
Can I get a quick, I want to see if we have support, because if not, I want to push it through. If we don't have support, or if we, you see where I'm going with this, like.
I kind of do, but I guess I just want to be careful with. I'm not sure if they really got what Member Engel said. So if regardless of our vote, he can go off and pull a building permit in that location and do something 832 square feet.
He can.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two of them across the street. One of them measures on here almost 900 feet. And the other one I measure at 800 feet.
Okay.
So,
But those are in the backyards, correct?
Technically, this is.
yes.
Well, I mean, those are obscured by the house in front of it, between the road and the outbuilding.
Well, one of them is not, I mean, one of them, if you're standing in the street, you're looking straight at it. So I would,
Okay.
I wouldn't go quite to that extreme. But they are further back. They are all behind the home. Not in a row with the home.
So can I get a show of hands, planning commission members who would support this as it is?
As it is?
As it is.
As it is. Okay. Does anybody want to take a crack at a motion to either amend it or to vote on as it is? We have to do one or the other, so.
I could do that, but I'd almost like the applicant to come back with a more creative plan. I don't want to dictate his creativity with a motion that's specific. I mean,
You can certainly table it and give some feedback to the applicant and have them come back. It sounds to me like the material is a no-go.
why don't we table it and give him a chance to see if he wants to come up with a different proposal? And then if he doesn't, then we can go from there. Is that, what are you thinking, trustee?
I'm thinking location and building materials seem to be well, obviously size, location and building material. The issues here.
If it were me, I would have liked to have seen it go on that southeast corner next to his garage, kind of at the end of the driveway, more in that area. It'd have to be 10 feet from the existing structure, but that's where I would have liked to have seen it.
I concur.
But
I concur. And at that point, it's a completely different application. So do we vote on the application as is? If we're going to completely change the application, does the process start over?
I think if we table it, then he doesn't necessarily, I mean, he can work with staff to modify the application. He doesn't have to completely start the process over again and pay the fee
I'd
again.
like to have him take another shot.
Okay.
I'd also like to I'd like to have something from the county that tells us exactly where the drain field is. Yeah.
The drain field, I'd also like to understand the driveway easement. So if he were to come back, we'd need those things. Member Richardson?
I have a question about regarding the property that's behind it. I believe it's 2562. So, I would say that it's a little bit less common that the property lines are situated in a way where the front essentially of a person's house facing the street could be blocked by a building created by the person that owns a property in front of you. Are there rules regarding that specific instance where we're saying, well, this is in his backyard, but it's also in someone else's front view of what would be the road? I mean, it's kind of in their front yard as well. To me, the location, I understand that the building materials are what we're focusing on as being not fitting with the neighborhood. But to me, it being like directly next to the neighbor's house and then also like directly in front of the other neighbor's house, it just seems like aggressively out of place. And I wonder if there's like a rule about what you can and can't build if it ends up being sort of in front of your neighbor in the back of you. I don't know how to word that better, but
Brian, do you have any?
There's not any rules, but that just gets to that criteria that we look at for special use approval and how it affects neighboring properties. So there's nothing specific for it, but it's, a factor that goes into consideration for the.
Cause to
special
me,
use
like looking
application.
at that property, I believe it's 2562. Like if the trees weren't there, that house would have a straight view of Linda Avenue. And when you start building buildings in front of it, I mean, I don't like it, I guess. I don't know what if there's anything else to say about
So
that.
the guidance that we're giving him is the materials, the location, the size.
Okay.
And we'd like to hear back on where the drain field is. And we'd like to understand the easement on the driveway. Does everybody agree with that? Can somebody make a motion to that effect, please?
I would make a motion to adopt our chair's well-stated summary of what we'd like to hear back from the applicant
And table the.
and table the current application. Support.
Okay, member Engel makes a motion to table with and to provide the criteria to the applicant as stated, and trustee Nordhook supports. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Please come back to us. Thank you so
Mr.
much for
Chair?
coming. Yes.
Could you ask if there's a show of hands if anybody from 2580 was here? I'm just curious.
2580 present.
No.
2580 the last house.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Thanks. Okay.
Side question, Brian, is it quite unusual that there are addresses on a street that go odd even on opposite sides? For example, you go, all the odd numbers are on one side of the street, except for this one property. I'm bothered by these address numbers.
Yeah, we don't have anything to do with address numbers, but right, usually it's odd or even on one side.
When they go around corners. people get confused.
Okay, moving on to Article 10. Do we have any old business?
Yeah, I guess so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know the amount of work involved in this request, but on old business, is there a possibility? I unfortunately can't make the township board meetings. Is there a way to get like a feedback loop in there? Like, can we summarize in old business stuff we moved up to the board and where it ended? Because I feel like we're kind of in a vacuum. We're setting stuff up, and I don't know if we need to do a better job, or if we're doing a good job, or where it goes.
Wormy's passed as an example, so I can give you that update.
Okay.
So I think what we did good work there, and a lot of it. But I think, Brian, that's a reasonable ask. I mean, we have trustee Timmy here, but yeah, I think, yeah, anything we send up to the board, if you can give us,
Yep. Yeah, it can just be
A highlight
preferable
reel.
update, too.
I don't
Just
even
want to
know.
really beat our chest. Yeah.
We don't need to state it at the meeting unless there's questions. If you can just include it in the packet, that would be sufficient. So-
Absolutely.
Are there codes or guidelines about like how long a car can just be being worked on in your
Yep,
driveway?
that's all under our general ordinances.
And Madison gets to issue citations, so.
And all cars in a driveway need to be like on, the actual driveway, not in the lawn.
I don't believe we have anything that speaks to that, but we have talked about inoperable vehicles or junk vehicles.
They need to have license plates.
Correct, yep. Yep, we have ones for that.
Go ahead, Member Rissy.
A while back, we talked about some general cleanup, if you would, about ordinances. I think there was discussion about maybe at one point, I know I had brought up the private road ordinance about the width maybe being made a little wider. And we talked about some other general cleanup. I think we mentioned the term commercial being pulled out of a recent ordinance. And I'm curious if there's been any forward movement on that stuff, or is that something we need to push along? Is it something staff's going to work on? Where do we stand with that, with those edits, so to speak?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of work on that already, and that term commercial one came up as well. So we're going to look at that. There was one that we're looking at for temporary buildings that the zoning board has brought up that they want to look at. So we've done some work, and we'll continue with that. And you can always give us another push, or if things come that are higher priority, you can always mention it. But yeah, we've been doing some work on
But that stuff has to ultimately, does it come back to us, or does it go straight to the board for them to approve it?
Nope, it comes to this group for zoning and so any zoning amendment goes to the planning commission for recommendation.
Right. I guess I just haven't seen anything coming by, and I want to make sure it doesn't fall off the radar, because I think it's important to keep up on that stuff.
Yep.
Do we have a punch list that we can see for all those? Because I would like to, based on today's interaction, can we clean up 4.08? it seems like it kind of a bit logical that we enforce it more in residential than we do in ARC, but it's not the way it's written.
Right, that's another one, the language should certainly be
Cleaned up.
tweaked.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Any other business? Article 11?
I had two, one, it's rough stuff.
Next farmland preservation meeting is next Wednesday at 7:30.
Correct, yep.
Okay, just want to confirm that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
One was we're gonna look at doing a work session at our next meeting for the master plan specifically. We could just hold our regular time at 7, or would people prefer to go earlier? For example, we could, do a 5 o'clock one and have food brought in or something like that, unless it worked best for everyone to do the 7 o'clock time.
Where would you bring in the food from?
We talked,
JT's.
we talked about doing it, holding the meeting at Township Hall where it could work a little better for that work session.
Oh.
I'll hear suggestions for food.
Is Timmy bringing the food? Oh, wait, he brought it last time.
Brought the donuts.
Do people have a preference of 5 versus 7 o'clock on the 16th?
So just for clarification, if we choose the 5, we're not following that with a meeting at 7, correct?
Nope, this would be, just the one meeting. So we didn't have any new business for that meeting. Is there a strong preference either way?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can just keep it at 7.
5 o'clock and some pizzas.
Does anybody have a preference?
I have no preference. I could go 5, 6, 7, anything in between.
So does 5 o'clock work for everybody? I'm gonna do 5:30 so people can get off work, and
5:30 is certainly more convenient.
how about 5:30, Brian?
That should work for me.
Okay.
2-hour block.
What's that?
Wouldn't that be nice? This one's probably gonna be a long one.
Hey, Brian, I have a question about these like driveway / easements. I mean, it was brought up today and it's something I hadn't really looked at before. Is that typical that we see these properties where they don't own their own driveway?
We
Like-
certainly have a number of
Yes.
existing those. Yep, it's an easement over someone else's property. There's a number of those.
And it would seem like that part would be cut out of the other person's property and they would own their own driveway now.
Typically, it's just easements over someone else's when there is a lot behind the other. So any new development, we don't permit that, but there's a number of older ones out there like that.
And I would, again, I feel like I'm treading on Joe's lane. I would watch the wording there because I think they own the driveway. They just don't own the land underneath the driveway.
Correct. They own the
Yeah.
right to have ingress, egress over the property.
But the use rights can vary depending on how the.
Correct, how it's
easement is
written. Yep, it
correct.
depends on the exact language in the easement document.
But it's possible that the easement's written so they can ingress and egress. And at that point, they decide to pour a concrete slab or asphalt, whatever it is, they own that material.
Why would anyone ever set it up that way? Like, it just seems overly complicated rather than just chunk out that section of that property.
We don't allow like flag lots like that. You have to have a minimum width. So again, we don't permit these, any new lots aren't allowed to have that, but. I mean, there's numerous easements like that out there.
These splits all go back to the 50s, right? 50s or 60s?
40s.
40s, so.
I'd have to ask Linda.
And then I did have one other note as well, and I mentioned this at a previous meeting, but we had a regularly scheduled meeting on November 6th, but there's an election that, or the following day, so we were bumping that one up to October 30. So the next meetings will be October 16, which will be the work session, October 30, and then November 20. So what that'll look like.
Yes, member Roxon.
I will not be present for the October 16 meeting.
And I don't think I'll be able to be here on October 30. I already have another engagement.
So
that
please send Brian and I,
Down
so
the
we have
street.
it noted.
Yeah, I guess my question is, it's just a lot in 1 month. Is there some, like, rather than pull it forward, could we move them, I guess, Thanksgiving the way, huh?
Well, yeah, then we have meetings back to back. This at least spaces them out, so it's 2 weeks between, 2 or 3 weeks between meetings.
What if we bumped it to Tuesday instead of Monday?
That's the date of the election, so that one wouldn't work.
Well, most darn
The
election.
clerk, I know clerk's department doesn't like some freaking
Democracy.
But I work the elections. That's in the way all the time.
Yeah. Okay, anything else, Brian?
That's all I had.
Okay, anybody else have any other business? At this time, we'll acknowledge any visitors that wish to speak. Mattis, yes, please come forward. Again, your name and address would be helpful for us.
Dale Summers at 2520 Linda. These easements came about years ago. That was all one piece of property owned by the Mulders. When they built the house that presently is there, they started selling off parts of it that they could. And I'm talking prior to 1976. One of the mother-in-laws moved in and they did it on the east side. They put an easement in so she could have a home there. Then a daughter decided to not live at home, and they built a small house that's now a large house, and they put another easement in. And then from that point on, the property started transferring to other people. But it was one individual that split all this property up in the configurations you see. And those easements were put in for family at that time, and they just carried with the property.
Super. Was the daughter's name Linda?
I have no.
All right, just
The
checking.
daughter's name Linda? No, I think it was a builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Member Brunel.
May I ask you a question?
Name was Linda, the wife's name was Irene.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay.
So the property in question, 2568, if you look at it, I don't know if you pulled it has a weird 25 foot by 25 foot by 25 foot little appendage. I'm guessing some structures, do you know the history, why that little bump out?
The lady that lived there was a mother and was sort of cantankerous, and I'm sure they just decided to piece her a little piece of property so she could put her house in there. We've no other reason.
There's a little 25
Right.
by
Towards the yellow house.
Towards the house, the people who weren't here today.
Yeah,
Together with the yellow.
yeah, that's where the mother lived.
Yeah, the new guy.
Don't know.
I don't connect with
Yeah,
that.
it's.
Well, thank you.
I don't have.
I'd be curious.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Sorry to keep you. but-
No. Would anybody else like to speak?
Exciting.
Drew Samsel, 2549 Linda. Augie already left, but to address my truck, I started a tree transplanting company 2 years ago. And I'm in the process of looking for property, but the difference between my truck and the structure is my truck can move, that structure can't move. And my truck won't be there within the next year. That structure, if approved, would be there indefinitely. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, I hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by member Engel, supported by member Rissy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Good night. Thank you all for coming.